Welcome back to Red Cedar Radar. I'm back with the usual crew for our post-game episode. Michigan State just beat Penn State here at home to secure their 10th win in a row. So first we'll go through players of the game. An obvious one, Frankie Fiddler had a great game. He's had a few good games recently, kind of coming off a little bit of a slump following his performance at Maui. I've been impressed by him on offense, and he's just kind of put in some hustle plays recently that I think are good energy boosters for the team that they've kind of needed as they've kind of lost some leads in recent games. Any additions to that?
One thing that stands out about Filler tonight was his 4 steals to me. His just effort defensively, I thought, has improved a lot. He's starting to understand his role. Jacob, you were telling us this. He's starting to understand his role a little bit more. Yeah. He was the guy at Omaha. He was their top scorer, et cetera, et cetera. And now he's coming in, was a starter. He's had to revert to the bench a little bit. So he's kind of figuring out that role. Headband. He's it's good juju.
But you brought up the steals. Izzo brought that up too. But the thing he was really proud of him about was his, the way he attacked the offensive glass. I believe he had 4 offensive rebounds today. Had multiple putbacks.
Yep.
I think one was an and one. He was probably the difference. There was a bunch of things that were like small things that were the difference tonight. But it was Fiddler. He had 18 points. That's a season high. And again, I brought up he's adjusting to it. Well, he said to adjust on the fly 2 times. He went from the guy at Omaha to average starter, then bad starter, and then moved to the bench. The low point was that Ohio State game. He played like 8 minutes, didn't score at all. And now, a few games later, he's starting to settle in. Izzo was like, pump the brakes. You can't. He's not going to put up 20 every single night now, but it's a welcome sign for sure.
Any other players to highlight?
Akins. I think Akins, they needed him down that stretch. I think it was the stretch that really put it in the bag for MSU. It was Ace Baldwin missed a free throw, I believe. He had a 1 for 2. It was a 5-point game. Ace Baldwin goes 1 for 2, and him missing a free throw is like a solar eclipse. It never happens. He was at 95% going into tonight. He misses one, then Akins goes down and gets an and one 7-point game. That's like the dagger. So, and he was the senior leader MSU needed tonight.
Yeah, I think he's upped his consistency the last few games. He was kind of on for a while, and then I felt like he lost his way a little bit. But at least last game and this game, he was very consistent on the court with what he needed to do, which is what you can ask from a veteran player.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Trey Hallman, 10 points, 6 assists. I thought he had a solid night, but transitioning a little bit, the foul trouble. I thought hurt Michigan State a lot in this game. Obviously, the refs were whistle happy for the entire game, both sides. Penn State had a ton of fouls in the first half, who kind of reverted to Michigan State in the second half, having a lot of fouls and at the guard position. And I know Izzo wanted to go a little bit smaller in the second half, and I guess that kind of hurt because Richardson, Fears, Holland, they all had 4 fouls at one point late in that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the interesting. You can look at this 2 ways, but for me, the thing that I'm optimistic about this game is that MSU won this game when Penn State out Michigan Stated Michigan State. Izzo said Penn State was by far, as far as Big Ten play goes, they matched up to Michigan State the best. They ran the floor. They really ran tonight, and they drew a ton of fouls. They shot more free throws than Michigan State did, and that's a game MSU's not comfortable playing with, and they still found a way. This is probably a C plus game for them, and hey, they're 6-0 in conference play. Just keep racking them up, I guess.
Izzo was, the word would maybe irate, heated.
He was pounding the lectern.
Yeah, during the post-game press conference. And, Michigan State won this game, headed into Illinois, who's going to be a very different team than Penn State. Maybe highlight a couple things. Let's highlight a couple things that Izzo had to say about maybe what wasn't carried over that they've been working on. The first being Jeremy Fears' technical foul. Talking to the refs, Izzo mentioned that they had a discussion about, who's supposed to talk to the refs. And I appreciate that, but I also appreciate Jeremy taking the initiative to kind of be a leader on the court, but maybe needs to learn when and the place to do it. But I appreciate that fire is there.
It wasn't the worst technical foul of all time, but it was like, if anyone's going to get a tech, it has to be me. A coach can get ejected, but he can't foul. The coach isn't out on the floor. That Fears technical foul counts against your foul total. And Fears ended with 4.
Yeah.
And they had to take him out for a long stretch when the game was not in hand. And that can cost your team. So it's a learning moment for Fears. Thankfully for him, it came in a win.
Yeah, I think Sydney, you mentioned Izzo was fiery in the post-game
Yeah.
press conference. And I was telling this to you, Jacob. I feel like last year after losses, he wasn't as fired up
Oh,
as
yeah,
he
no,
was
I agree.
tonight.
Well,
Mhm.
I was sorry to interrupt, but I was at probably the worst loss last year was probably Ohio State at home. They had a 12, 13 point lead in the second half, blew it. Ohio State was a probably 14-team conference, 13th or 12th. It was a game MSU had no business losing. Izzo wasn't fired after the game. He was
Yeah.
just kind of like, he wasn't. He
Yeah.
was mad, but he wasn't.
Like mopey,
He wasn't. He
I
was.
guess,
It was more.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a sad mad. He was mad today. He was. It was old school. It was the type of fight that people have wanted from Izzo.
Yeah.
It's classic. It's the Izzo that's led this team to Final Fours. And has developed guys over a 2-3 year span, and it's what people have been craving from him.
It shows that he cares about this team and he believes in this team, that the ceiling is really high.
Standard's
for this
different
team.
this year.
The
Yeah,
standard
I
is
agree.
different this year, so
You can't see it from here, but they have the new. He said, "Be different." It's the new slogan. It's off camera to
Yeah.
my left, but this team is. I've been here for just a few years as a student, but this is, it just feels different this year.
It
They're
really does.
6-0. They could win the Big Ten. Everything's in front of them for the first time in a while.
And it just seems like there's connection between the players that maybe wasn't there the past 2 years. Like them being different and sharing as much playing time as they do and rotating, letting those bench guys score just as many points as the starters.
45-35.
I think that's a big deal, and I think that's a big deal in the way college basketball is today. I mean, big guys come for big paychecks, and they come to play for big paychecks, and it's a little bit of a different vibe with this team.
Yeah, you brought up the bench points tonight. It was split right down the middle. Again, you have a 10-person rotation here, but it was split right down the middle. 45 points for the bench guys, a lot of it Fiddler. 45 points for the starters, and that's pretty much been the story of the season. Just strength in numbers. Again, that's the other slogan from this team. So, there's again at the end of the day, you got to feel a little bit good scoring 90 points in a regulation basketball game, but
Yeah.
you can't afford to give Illinois 85. You know that much.
Yeah.
defense and consistency are going to be the keys, probably against the Fighting Illini coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game, and an opponent that Michigan State hasn't faced at a caliber level yet. It's a game at home, and I think that matters a little bit in the Big Ten. I
Yes.
think that's a helpful piece for the Spartans. Anything else that Michigan State needs to clean up before Sunday?
Turnovers also, second half,
7 of them, I think, in the second half.
7. Okay.
Izzo's been preaching that over and over again. It got better in Northwestern. It was good first half today, but turnovers did help Penn State make this a real game second half. And if they wanted to beat Illinois, I think, again, 10 might be a number you'd be okay with, but, every possession is valuable in a game like that.
Yeah. I think that covers it for our episode today. We'll be back. Will you be here on Sunday?
I will be.
Will you be here on Sunday? Okay, we'll be back on Sunday with another recap episode. Check that out on Spartans Illustrated YouTube page and find Red Cedar Radar wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks so much. Bye.